What's up, y'all? Ian Power from the Fantasy 4-Pack here, bringing you guys our top start sits of Week 9. Before we launch into the list, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you know exactly when new content drops. Without further ado, let's dive into the list. Starting off our starts, we've got Myles Gaskin of the Miami Dolphins. Now, this one may sound strange, as Myles Gaskin hasn't exactly been paying off for fantasy managers this season, but over the past couple weeks, his usage has been increasing, and it looks encouraging for this running back who has disappointed fantasy managers to this point. This week, he draws Houston's 31st ranked rush defense, and with that increasing workload, he also gains the benefit of having no Devonta Parker this week. Devontae Parker seems to have suffered a setback in practice and will not be on the field. As a result, I expect Gaskin to be a primary driver of this offense this week. He offers you a decent catch floor in addition to what I have him projected out for about 10 to 15 rushing attempts on the ground. Should be a nice little start for fantasy managers looking to get a solid performance at the running back position. Next up, we have Brandon Cooks. This receiver has been a unsexy option so far this season, but he has been getting a bucket of targets as he is the only real pass catching option for Houston. Miami has been absolutely atrocious against the wide receiver position, hemorrhaging points left and right. I expect Brandon Cooks to feast against this secondary, and with Tyrod back and healthy, he should be seeing north of 10 targets in this matchup in a game where the Houston Texans should be chasing the Dolphins all afternoon. They're going to need to try and keep up and attract me. I think Brandon Cooks is in a smash spot this week for fantasy managers. And then finally, for the starts, we have Darren Waller. Darren Waller has been not really paying off his fantasy value as far as where he was drafted, given what fantasy managers were expecting from him, but he has at least been seeing consistent targets for the most part this season. He did get a little banged up before the Raiders bye, but with 2 weeks off, he is fully off the injury report and back to a full go for the Raiders. In addition, sadly, with the Henry Ruggs incident, while tragic, is going to be a positive for Darren Waller, at least on the football field. Ruggs was looking like he was getting more and more worked into this offense, and with no Ruggs, I expect a lot of those targets to funnel towards their top pass catching option in Darren Waller. He should see a slight bump in production as a result of that, especially with down the field targets. Finally, drawing a fairly mediocre matchup against this Giants defense, I don't really see much in the way of defenders stopping him from sort of imposing his will on the football field. Darren Waller should be a very successful fantasy tight end for the managers who've stuck by him to this point. Roll him out there with confidence this week. And then we'll move over to our 3 sits of the week. Starting off with our sits, we've got Devonta Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's drawn a tough matchup this week against the Chargers. Chargers are 5th against the pass and 2nd against the wide receiver position. So they're already not a very appetizing target to go against, but when you factor in the fact that Jalen Hurts has looked completely incompetent as a passing quarterback, he has looked out of sync. He can't move the ball downfield, and he hasn't been finding Devonta Smith when he's been open. I don't have faith in Jalen Hurts to be able to successfully navigate this tough defense, and if he does, it's going to be quickly covered up. Devonta Smith isn't breaking anything off in this one. You're basically praying for a touchdown if you roll him out there. While I do think that the Eagles are going to have to be chasing in this one, the Chargers are just a flat out better team. They're going to be up. They're going to be scoring points. So the matchup is at least in Devonta Smith's favor, but it's going to be low quality targets, and I could see the Eagles really struggling to score in this game. Better matchups are on the horizon for Devonta Smith, but I personally, as a Devonta Smith manager, am looking elsewhere this week for wide receivers to stream over him because this is going to be a rough matchup. Next up for our sit candidates, we have James Robinson, although I am including Carlos Hyde here if James Robinson sits. As of right now, he is considered questionable for the game this weekend. He's drawing a really bad matchup, like the worst matchup in football pretty much. The Bills have been excellent in all phases of the defense, and the Jags are just a flat-out bad team. I don't expect there to be a lot of rushing opportunity in this game as is because the Bills are going to be up. They're going to be up fast. They're going to be up a lot. And the Jaguars are going to have to be throwing to try and catch up to them. So automatically James Robinson's workload is going to be decreased this week. You factor in the fact that he's also banged up right now, and if he plays, he's probably going to see a reduced workload to not aggravate that injury, and this just smells like a trap game for James Robinson. I think that there are better running backs that you can start in this week, likely ones that you probably were able to get off the waiver wire when waivers rolled earlier this week, guys like Boston Scott. I'm not excited for this Jaguars running back room. Similar to Devonta Smith, there is a lot of hope for better games in the future for them, but this is a week where I am comfortable sitting not only James Robinson, Carlos Hyde, but all Jaguars. And then finally for our sits this week, we've got Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee is exactly what we thought Tyler Higbee is, which is just a fairly mediocre fantasy tight end. Tennessee, on paper, might, if you're just looking at this matchup at a glance, might look like a good matchup. Tennessee's been vulnerable through the air so far this season, but they're actually very good against the tight end position. They're ranked 5th currently against the tight end, and I don't think Higbee is this stud tight end that's going to go out there and make Tennessee pay. I'm not looking to throw him out there against this defense, especially when you factor in that this is a wide receiver funnel defense. They let up a ton of points and a ton of targets and a ton of catches and a ton of yardage to the wide receivers, and the Rams have a handful of good ones. I mean, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Van Jefferson, all of these guys are in play this week as really good wide receivers. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver one. He's a great wide receiver every week, but with them having 3 solid wide receiver options, I don't see a ton of upside for Tyler Higbee in this one. Maybe he accidentally catches a touchdown in the end zone, but realistically, you're looking at a 4 to 7 point game maybe for Higbee. So he's riding the pine for me this week. I am comfortable streaming over him because I just do not trust a guy who hasn't truly had an impactful fantasy performance since week 3 against Tampa Bay. Leave this guy on your bench, or if you don't have space on your bench, just cut him. He's not that good. Well, that'll do it for our start sits for this week. Obviously, there are a plethora of other guys that you could be considering. If you have any specific matchups that you have questions about, make sure to reach out to us on Twitter at the Fantasy 4-Pack, at Fantasy4P_Ian, at Senpai Koala, and at The Spoon. Hit us up on Twitter, and we'll be happy to go over any specific scenarios for you that you might have questions about. And I hope you all have great weekends of fantasy football.